Hi, welcome back to the One True Divine Feminine and Psychic Investigations Tarot. So thrilled to have you here. Hope you like the Pluto story I told just a while ago. You need to keep that one in your think tank because we're going to come back and review that one again when we talk about the rest of the square happening in April. Um, but for now, we're going to focus on Neptune in the third house. And again, on a high vibe level, Neptune is how we contact our great creator, right? How we tap in. Also has a lot to do with emotions and all things watery, for example. And in the third house, which is normally ruled by Gemini, that's very much a communications house. So, how we think, how we process information, how we talk, how we share what we know has a lot to do with roaming around the local neighborhood, learning things, and just that sort of thing, siblings, neighbors, that kind of energy. So, we're going to talk about what it means when this planet, this watery planet, goes through the third house of communications and thinking, and again, how we process information. So, a person who has this kind of higher vibe and spiritual symbol in their third house could be attracted to metaphysical traditions at this time. So they might be contemplating or learning about things like karma, reincarnation, or even the notion that our thoughts and words all hold energy and emotion and can thus impact the world. And Hindus very much believe that every thought has an energy to it, whether it's spoken or not. And that when you think that thought, it goes out into the world. So what we say is very powerful, and it has the opportunity to impact the collective consciousness. Um, yeah. And when we say things, we just need to think about it, right? And I'm just the same as everybody else. I have days where I try to be kind and loving with my words, and other days, well, I'm not quite as good with that. But we need to just be conscious of the fact that we are putting energy out into the universe. Now, because the third house is ruled by that Gemini energy and is linked to how we communicate, expect the energy to be more free form. So here you can see, the study of astrology could show up there. And in this case, it represents Yod, which is called the finger of God. So it's like an astrological thing that points to something that God intends to happen. So that's kind of a free form energy, but also like somebody here really stirring up a whirlwind of information, which we all know Geminis love to do. But when Neptune is here and assisting this process, that can come out in interesting ways, like word associations, or by looking at symbols to understand the meaning. It can come out in intuition or dreams, and it can provide very valuable information to the intellect. Psychic abilities can be highlighted, and for some, automatic writing may allow you to tap into unseen forms of higher wisdom, allowing you to channel messages from spirit guides. Now, because of the link to how we think and share ideas within this house, creative communication projects could prove fruitful at this time. So you could find yourself wanting to immerse in classes like film making, photojournalism, photography, or even poetry writing, something that stirs the emotions and the soul. Chanting, yoga prayers, or mantras is another possibility. Drawing heavenly or daydreamy images of angels, nebulas, or even various sea creatures is possible. Communicating with the divine in song, prayer, or on a blog are all highlighted. One of the books that comes to my mind when I think about this particular configuration is the book called Conversations with God, which was really a great book, but that's the perfect thing to happen when Neptune is bobbing along in the third house. Now, connecting on a soul level. Okay, it's like somebody here is pouring out their soul with siblings, cousins, or neighbors is also possible at this time. Short trips to the sea are also indicated. And you might find yourself trying to mingle with other like-minded souls. So it's like your energy is going out and you're trying to find your tribe so that you can connect with people that you have simpatico with, right? So workshops on positive thinking, developing psychic skills, like you can see this person's trying to do right here, or building a spiritual community like a yoga farm is also possible and highlighted. Now, Carl Jung, he dealt with a lot of people, right? Tried to draw people together every which way he could. And he spent a great deal of his life analyzing how people process information in different ways. And he very much honed into the cosmological and belief systems of people to do this. And most especially, he was very interested in the collective consciousness, the great pool of our thoughts, that kind of swarms all around us, just like the ocean water, that holds all of those feelings and spoken words. And it just seems to reside around us, just like the Mother Ocean resides around us when we're swimming in it. So that's the collective consciousness, and everything we think or feel or say or do is held within that bank. And he actually did not only taught about this, communicated this idea very much so, but he also wrote very many advanced books on the subject as well. And he used his connection to the divine to help heal other people's minds. Okay. And the third house has everything to do with the mind, right? Jung also believed that life had a very spiritual purpose, and that part of that purpose was to self-actualize or individuate. He felt that the collective mind not only held cultural conditioning, what we learn by growing up in certain families or neighborhoods or cities or, states even, but also our collective shadow. So, the things that can cause towers in our life and emotional deluges, which is, of course, why people showed up on Jung's doorstep to begin with when they were having the breakdown, the emotional breakdown, and trouble in their lives. They would come to talk to him about what was troubling their minds, right? And that collective shadow holds things, that are hard to look at, like just emotional turmoil and what happens, when you do evil things to other people, like scapegoating or whatever. It can definitely show us where things are out of whack. For example, when people are holding on to extreme amounts of dark energy in their minds, it can make them mentally disturbed, cause them to seek out demonic forces. Or here's an example of, Hitler. I mean, he held his shadow very close in his mind. It's like he grasped onto it and held onto it. And that caused him to think up crazy things like a final solution for Jewish people. And he ostracized these people from the community by painting yellow stars on their buildings and made them wear such things on the uniforms that they had to wear around. And this was all intended to mark them differently, to separate them from the collective, because separating them somehow made it easier for him to enact his gruesome nightmare that he had swimming around his head, which was Auschwitz and the other concentration camps and what he did to people because he held on to the madness in his own mind. All right. So, Jung was all about getting people to try to deal with that dark shadow, to deal with the things that are troubling the mind, to help people tap into the higher deities so that they could not only cleanse their own brains and spirits, but also to help clean out the pool of the collective consciousness. Because whatever we put in, well, we all tend to encounter it at some point or other. So now with Neptune in the third house, this is critical. The thoughts you feed into your mind become very important. Connect to a high level and you will raise your vibration and forge an alliance to the divine, right? And you can see this person's tapping in right here. Drop into the shadowlands like Hitler did, and the darkest delusions can unleash monsters that muddy our collective pool of thoughts to the horror of all the world to see. So that's some of the yin and the yang of the third house and what Neptune can do there. But we're going to wait on the rest of the Neptunian stuff on the low vibe for later on. But I just wanted to give you the high vibe end of things today. All right, may we all have peaceful, loving, kind thoughts, especially as we move into the Pluto and Aquarius season coming up in 2023, so that we can work across all of the many divides we have, clean up our collective consciousness, and find a way to share love and create a society that works for all of us. All right, God bless America. Peace.